So we'll begin this first park board meeting, March 31st, 2025, beginning with roll call.
Jalen King,
Here.
Connor Dykes.
Here.
Kelsey Secord. Dave Sandretto.
Here. All right, and the pledge of allegiance. Dave, will you lead us in the pledge? Thanks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Did want to pass these out to you guys real quick.
Something real fast for you guys, speak into the microphones, or otherwise it will not catch you.
Go ahead,
there you go.
pull it up and pretend you're eating it. It's just,
But don't eat it.
yeah, you don't want to really eat it. You pull it towards it, so you don't have to lean out. Yeah.
All right, so I want to thank you guys for coming today to our first park board meeting. We've established this in an effort for the city to get community feedback on our parks. We've got about 6 of them. I don't count off the top of my head, but we've got a few parks throughout town, some under development, some not. And I appreciate your guys' willingness to be part of this board. The goal of this board is to discuss the needs of our city regarding recreation and parks, discuss future plans, discuss future development, and other parks business. So some of the things I'd like to talk about today include, well, there's no approval of minutes or community discussion, but some of the things I'd like to talk about today is the condition of our current parks. We did provide a report or presentation to our city council about a month ago, giving a condition of our parks, a plan for repair and a capital improvement plan. And then also one of the goals I'd like to discuss is coming up with a plan for naming of our parks. So those are the things that we have on the agenda today. Is there anything else anyone would like to add to that to discuss?
I don't think that's gonna cover it all.
I do. So to start, I'd like to first just kind of discuss our parks and the current conditions. So here's a report, and see if I can share my. Usually we share our screen up here. Let me see if I can jump onto the Zoom, and then I'll bring it up here as well on the screen so you guys can see what we've got going on. And Dave, if you don't mind, I'll entertain you for a bit. I kind of rehash the presentation we gave to council about a month ago. So just connect to Zoom here real quick.
Do I need to share it with you, or are you already connected?
You will need to share once I get on.
Okay.
Just a second to get on.
Okay,
Once you get on, we need to make it co-host.
Yes.
copy that.
See it every day. On the screen like that. 1 second.
Okay.
Audio, that's what we repeat back here. Well,
Dave, excuse me, is it the share screen?
No, that's your sharing on the
That's me
screen.
sharing. Get out of there.
We're going to participants.
Oh, and find him and then the 3 dots?
Yeah, you're gonna have to click on participants, not the arrow.
Right here.
You can do it there, yeah.
Okay.
Make co-host.
So host. Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
All right. So just give a brief presentation about our current parks. So like I said, this was given to our city council about a month ago regarding the parks that we have in town. And kind of, it was an evaluation on condition, repair needs, capital improvements that we should be doing, things of that nature. So start on our 14th Street. Yeah, 14th Street Golf Course. So this park is located over right off of 14th Street. And right now it's our walking pathway. And then we've got a disc golf course that has been temporarily installed there. Some folks have come in, put in some temporary, the goals and those things, and they'll remove them after their tournaments, but looking at a more permanent install here in the near future regarding those. So after evaluation of that, the needs that we assessed there were parking lot striping, some fencing cleanup and repair, and pathway distance markers on the pathway we have there. Also, capital facilities repairs. Those are repairs that would cost more, basically above the budget that we have for the park now. So those are things we would have to plan for in the future. But we're looking at some landscaping borders, tree trimming and cleanup, fence replacement, expansion of the parking lot, possible at some point riverfront access and boat launch, and then renaming and signage. Right now, this park, we've all called it the 14th Street Park, and I believe it's got a name beyond that I can't find in any records we have.
That does.
Yeah, I heard somebody one time say they heard a name of it, but it's one that we want to consider naming. A little bit of history on this park. I'm also going to, can't switch back and forth, but this park's just located over here off of 14th Street. And it's just a large undeveloped area. It's kind of overgrown with trees and brush, things like that. And we just recently had it, because it's out of city limits and it's county property, and it's owned by Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we have a long-term lease with them where we maintain the property and we're allowed to use it as a park. So development there has to be very limited because Fish and Wildlife doesn't want to disturb the habitat there. And we're also working with the county because it's in county and outside of city limits. But we did recently just do some housekeeping there. We got the property rezoned to parkland because it was not zoned as parkland. So this last year we got that done. And in discussing with the county, anything that we want to do there requires their approval, just so everyone's kind of aware. Even cutting a tree down requires their approval.
Can we annex it?
We could.
Might be
We
worthwhile.
could, it's something to consider. I know we're working on a comp plan and looking at what land we want to bring in, but that would be an option. We have had a couple tournaments there for disc golf this spring, and they seem to be going really well. We're expecting to see that kind of pick up and some more of those tournaments start growing in the near future. I think with that, one of the things we really want to consider is parking in that area, because really it's a very small parking lot. And if these tournaments take off, which would be great, brings a lot of folks in. So we want to having an area acceptable for them to park their vehicles, it'd be nice. Get a couple food trucks down there while they're doing their tournaments where, people can get some snacks and all of that. So some things that to consider. Moving on, our next park, and these are all just not alphabetical order. So this is the Archie Borton Skate Park. This is the one just right in the main drive with the old tennis courts and the skate park there. So the needs we have there is, again, parking lot painting, replace the parking stops at the tennis court area. There's some rotted wood there used for stops, repair the drinking fountain, and landscape and cleanup repair. Capital facilities that need repaired. The tennis courts need fencing repaired and need to be resurfaced. And we've discussed as a council and agreed to convert those courts to pickleball courts. They're a lot more popular nowadays. So the good news with those three items there, the tennis courts resurfaced, the fencing, and the pickleball courts, are that we've got funding for that, and we're in the process of doing that now. We've just contracted with the fencing, the resurfacing. We plan to be contracting out later this week after council approves that. And with that resurface, they will be converting it to pickleball. We're not going to turn it back into tennis courts. So That's in process. The only other capital facility we're looking at there is just some tree removal around the skate park area and the street where some trees are overgrowing into the streets. Does anyone have history on who Archie Borden is? I'm asking for myself because I know it's named after him, but I'm not sure who he is or why he had a park named after him.
I don't know.
Okay. Just curious. Our next park, and this one we call Watauga Park, even though it's not officially named, is a small park in the middle of the Watauga Estates development, which is on 7th Street, kind of as you're just going right, or yeah, on 7th Street, as you're just going up the hill, there's a little development there called Watauga Estates. And inside there's a very small park. It was given to the city by that development as well, we require when developments come in that they either pay for a fee for parks or they donate a portion of land out of their development for a park. In this case, this is what happened. So with that, they also did some partial development there. Some of the needs that we have there is actually pretty well maintained. It's just playground surfacing. We've got a playground there with no fall protection surfacing. So you see this slide and this little tunnel, that's just dirt down there. We should have some wood chips, pea gravel, some sort of surfacing there in case a child were to fall for safety. Again, our capital, yes, Jenny?
Just Archie Borden was a founding member of the Benton City Council,
Oh, cool.
and he was the first mayor of Benton City.
First mayor
Yep,
and founding member. of
yep, and then the park was named after him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
It also looks like he had some kind of weight loss too. That's where his family was from and born.
We might consider putting a commemorative marker up there. Some kind of commemorating that.
It would be neat to put something as to who Archie Borden is and why he got a park named after him.
Yeah.
So, that would be good. All right, moving on. So Legion Park is our park across from the high school, just on the main road as well. This is probably our most developed park. It's got the nicest play area there. Got the basketball court. Also has right in the middle of it our water reservoir, one of our reservoirs. So in our assessment of that, the needs there were playground surfacing, just kind of a redistribution. That's just labor to make sure that stuff's fluffed up and moved around appropriately. I've got a bench that's the vinyl's peeling off, so some maintenance needs, and then capital facilities. Because of the amount of trees there, it's an annual thing that we need to maintain those trees and make sure they're taken care of. Moving on real quick, Wood Carnahan Park, that's our park that's right behind all the downtown businesses here. Used to be called City Park. Some of the maintenance needs there is repairing the playground structure and repairing the drinking fountain. And again, larger repairs, additional lighting, signage, and repairing the stage that we have there. Mountain View Park is a small park, kind of off of Kendall Road right over here. In the middle of the development as well. It's a 1 acre piece, and right now it is just a grass field. There's nothing there. It's fairly new. It was again donated through a development. Need some grass work there with some overseeding and fertilizer. The goals with that park are to put in a play structure, put in some developments, possibly some soccer fields. And then we need to consider signage and the naming of that park again, because it's not officially named. We call it Mountain View because that's the name of the development in the area. Recreational boat launch park is our first park coming into town. I call it Rabble Park for short. Our needs there, we've got a drinking fountain that's not working, just some trimming, cleanup, and then painting of the paid handicap stalls. And for capital facilities there, we'd like to irrigate a portion of it. This land, kind of like the 14th Street Park, is also owned by Department of Fish and Wildlife. So development there requires their approval. And Fish and Wildlife does not want to interrupt the habitats that are there. So we have to be very strategic about what we can do in these parks to develop them. This one's also in the floodplain. When we have parks in the floodplain, you have to also work with ecology on what you can do and what you can't do. And then Riverfront Park is land that was purchased in 2020. about 7 acres of land leading to the railroad bridge. Way back over into this area off of 7th Street. And we're working right now on that one. There's no development there right now. We bought the land and have not had any funds to do that, but we have applied for a grant for an access road in there and signage. So I just completed a $50,000 grant application for Riverfront Park to get us a gravel road in there wide enough for 2 cars to go through. Right now, there's a dirt pathway for one car to kind of drive through, leading to a little roundabout area at the very bottom where the bridge is. But it's really an unmanned area at this point, so we're hoping to begin development there and get some funding. We have to have this turned into an official park by the end of 2026. That was part of the agreement with the purchase of the property. So that's where we're hoping the funding for the access road and the signage will help us do that. Further future goals for this park is to put in some pathways, some trails, some hiking, riverfront access for canoeing and fishing, do a little bit of development there. And then our last park is right now we all call it Blacktop Park. It's also where we're hoping our future splash pad will go. We did apply for an application for that last year, and we're just pending legislative approval on that. And that's a 1 acre piece of property just right off of the main road as you pass the Kybe Market. It's about a block down on the right hand side. Right now, it's just a large grass area as well. We did put some fencing and boulders up there. But some of the things we'd like to add on there for maintenance are some shade trees, and again, we're working with that grass. And then our capital facilities is funding approval for a splash pad, finalizing the design, and again, signage and the naming of the parks. So that's kind of a brief, try to keep it brief summary of our parks. Any questions, comments at this point? No. Okay. All right. So we did also put together. Yes.
He was about to say something.
Oh, sorry.
So on the Riverfront Park, what was the finalized design of Kana and to?
Well, good question. So Akana is our engineering firm, and they put together a design for us. I can bring it up, switch my screen here. Give me a second. I'll show you the design that we have for that. So. So this is the design that we have for the Riverfront Park. You can see my cursor here. So this line is our property line in the park. It's a triangle piece that runs here along the river and down this way with a little 1 acre chunk kind of out of it here. And what we're planning here is the access road. This is the access road that I just requested funding for. Coming in, we've got a restroom here with a parking area. As we come into the park, we're looking at a gazebo with an event center over here that will be grass and water. These little areas are more parking areas. This would all be gravel, unpaved, but these are parking areas. Additional parking up in here with a turnaround at the very end. And then you can kind of see in here some trails as well that we would look at putting in with some little bridges across there. There's a I wouldn't use the word stream because it's not really flowing water, but there is wetlands in this area that kind of runs through here. It's an old drainage canal. And so you've got a lot of standing water in this area. So we have a couple of bridges over that. And that's the full plan at some point for this park. Right now, it's piece by piece. And like I said, if we can we're applying for $50,000. That's the max this grant that we can obtain. So with that, we're looking at the paved access road in, gravel. So just kind of graded and gravel and some signage. We do have a grant as well for this is a paved trail tying to our existing paved trail system that would lead up to the railroad bridge. And I don't know if you've heard about the railroad bridge or not, but we also have a $2 million grant through HUD to purchase that bridge and refurbish it into the paved pathway. So those are all also kind of plans in the works that we're working on for this area. But this is the area that we do have to have developed as a park by 2026. The question of what does a park look like? And really, in talking to the funding source that gave us the money to buy the property, they said, as long as you have a road in there and you have signage, that qualifies as a park. So that's what we're trying to get in there, is that road and signage in there. So we can at least meet that requirement, and we're not then tied to a deadline on like having to give the property back because we're not developing it like we were funded to do. So, but this is kind of a brief map, and we're not looking at changing a lot of the natural landscape. This is all a lot of sagebrush. You've got some tree overgrowth in this area here. And then again, you've got the riverfront area. We would develop a little bit of the riverfront just to provide some better access there. And again, just your paved road, or unpaved roadway in there. So. Any other questions? Okay. So I did give you guys a couple papers here. The first one is our capital improvement plan, which kind of matches what we just discussed. And what that is what we're looking at, some of the capital improvements that we want to look at completing in the near future with funding available. So the priorities set forth by the council was development of Lloyd Carnahan Park. That is what we kind of call our central park here in town. When we have events like Benton City Days, that's where everybody congregates. You know, if we have kids performing things, they're at that stage there. So we really want to look at improving that park because that's where we spend a lot of time as a city. Legion Park is also one of our more used parks. Again, that's the one across the street from the high school. And we talked about having a public restroom facility there. Right now, we just have porta potties and some better parking. Right now, all the parking there is just street side parking. So those are some of the priorities we've looked at. I would say the other one probably not listed here is at the Riverfront Park, which is the first one coming into town. We're trying right now just out of city funds to kind of explain it. As you drive into the park, you drive in and there's a parking lot, and between the parking lot and the main highway, there's kind of a patch of grass and trees. We want to turn that area into actual park. So we want to, right now it's a lot of weeds and overgrowth and stumps, but we want to develop that into actual grass that people can use as parkland. Put some irrigation in there. There's no irrigation right now. And we're hoping that we can do that through city funds and staff labor. So that's one of our goals there. We consider that park because it's the first park everybody sees when they come in. It's very high visual content. We want that area to look nice. So we're looking at dressing that area up. Those would be the main improvements under our capital improvement plan. The other paper I gave you is just what we're looking at doing this year based on the budget that we have available. And it's just really repairs and maintenance. So that's this page here. And it's just kind of what we have as a plan in place for this year to just kind of get our parks fixed. We've got a lot of parks with things not working. Drinking fountains aren't working, they're there, but they don't work. You know, we've got parking stops, painting that's just worn out. So it's our goal this year to use our parks budget to get those things up and operational, and then continue to research funding for capital. So that's kind of where we're at as parks. Any other questions or comments? Anybody?
Well, I think you should let them know how much parkland we're supposed to have.
a lot more than we do. I don't have that in front of me, but I did do it for that grant application I did. I believe we're supposed to have an acre for every 500 people, going off memory. No, it was not, because we're about half the parkland we're supposed to have in city limits. So for a city, we're supposed to have, I think we've got about 15 acres of parkland, and we're about half of that right now. So that doesn't count 14th Street Park, because 14th Street Park is not in city limits. Right. So that one doesn't count. And if we did have that one, we would probably we'd be really close to within compliance if we annex that within the city. But again, some of these parks aren't really usable as parks. It's more like that one specifically is, there's a pathway through it, but there's really no access to anything else there. It's overgrown. It's not mowed, because again, Fish and Wildlife does not allow us to do those things. So it's one where we can just basically walk the pathway, and that's about it. So, welcome.
Hi,
Are you Kelsey?
I am.
All right. Feel free to come on up and have a seat.
Okay.
And is that, acreage, it says 15, but we have half of that, or was 15 the half?
15 acres.
15 acres is, yeah. Yeah, so we're well under what we're required to have for parkland.
Closer to 30.
Yes, and we're well under that.
Is that including, the Riverfront Park, the one that's using access to?
It is including that one,
Okay.
yes, because that is in city limits. So, Kelsey, I just gave a brief overview of all of our parks.
Okay.
I had presented to our city council about a month ago, and kind of went over repairs needed,
Okay.
and then what we're planning for capital improvements in the near future. I'll give you a copy of the presentation at the end that
Okay.
kind of discusses all of that as well. You can have all that. But that's kind of the state of our parks. We're well under the land. One of our challenges here is that as developments come in, we're running out of land to use as park space. There's not a lot out there anymore. And when a development comes in, there's two options they can do, and sometimes we can help direct that option. They can either give us a fee to pay for park land or park repairs or maintenance. We call it a parks and lieu fee, or they can take some of the land, a portion of the land of the development, and say this part of the land will be a park for this neighborhood. We've done that a few times, and we really prefer not to go that route unless it's in a strategic location that will be big enough. Because like we have a small park in the middle of Watauga Estates over here that is really not a community park, because it's kind of nestled in that neighborhood. So only that neighborhood knows it's there. It's very small. It's one lot. It's the size of one residential lot. Got a couple play structures on there, but it's not really a residential park. And it's a lot of work for us to maintain these small areas of land, you know?
So does the city maintain those parks after the builder?
Yes,
So it's okay.
yeah.
So they basically get to choose where it's at, because it's like they pick out a lot.
Can you speak up in the microphone,
Oh, okay.
please?
So they pick out a lot and what they're gonna put on it, and then the city is required to maintain it.
I don't know who picks the lot. I think it's kind of it's a joint effort on what we decide is the best location. The amount of land they give is based on the size of their development, how many houses, how many acres they're developing, and or the price that they will pay the park and lieu fee.
Okay.
We have looked at those fees and discussed increasing them and possibly requiring more than, if they are going to give us land, if they do more than just give us land, to also develop it into a park, put in a play structure, do all of those things. So those are some options we've discussed, but we do not have anything official to make those changes at this point. Right now, they can just pay a fee, which is, I believe it's 10 cents per acre. So it's a substantial fee when they're doing a large development, you know, but I think Cherry Grove was like 500,000. Does that sound about right? Yeah, so the large Cherry Grove development north of the high school that they're doing now, kind of just right on the other side of the street from the high school, that was about a $500,000 fee they paid. They chose to pay the fee instead of give us land for a park. Which we accepted that because we'd rather take the money and improve our existing parks or find a piece of land that's more central to town that we can use. So those are some of the things that we look at. Like I said, the small parks in the neighborhoods are a lot of work for us to maintain. We have the one like here in Mountain View that is just a piece of grass because we don't have the funding to do anything else with it yet. We don't have the money for a play structure. We don't have money to bring in a restroom facility or anything. So now we have a piece of land over here by Kendall Road. We call it Mountain View because that's again the development that went in there. We have one north of the Kaiby Market on the other side of the street. That's a 1 acre piece of land that currently we don't have any funding for it. We're hoping to get some soon. But when developments give us this land and we don't have money for it, it just becomes a piece of grass. So those are some of the challenges we face. One other thing I do want to mention is we did apply for funding, through RCO to buy some land for an athletic facility as well, put in like some sports fields, about $1.2 million, but we did not get that grant. That was this last year. So RCO is the Recreation Conservation Office. They're the main funding source for parks for small cities. So every 2 years, their funding cycle comes up and you can apply for grants. We applied for some last year and we're pending award on a splash pad at the park north of the Kaiby Market. So if that's awarded, which we're really high on the list, just waiting for legislative approval, then we will be looking at a splash pad there. Like I said, every 2 years you can apply for something. So it's a kind of a long, slow process if we want to develop our parks, put in play structures, put in sports fields, whatever we want to do. So we are working on finding other options. There are others out there. It's just kind of tough to find those. Most of them require some sort of a match, which means we have to come up with some money ourselves too. Sometimes it's half, sometimes it's a third or 25%. So just depends on the grant. But that's kind of in a nutshell where we're at with our parks. One thing I wanted to just get your feedback on was how you guys feel about our parks and what would be priorities as a park board. What would be your guys' priorities for our city? So any feedback on kind of what we've discussed and what we're working on?
Also, if you go to, I like the 14 days. Golf park.
Yes.
What do you mean? You have a lane into this golf park? What is it?
Frisbee golf. Yeah,
Frisbee golf.
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that.
They have it down at Columbia Park. They have it at Two Rivers. There's one over by Fred Meyer's at Richland. I enjoy it, so it's fun once you kind of get into it.
I think it's getting more popular and I know Mayor Burton here has met with some folks regarding the course that we have and I have too. And they like ours because it's very challenging.
They do.
There's a lot of trees and overgrowth, so you have to try to, get your frisbee, forgive me, I'm gonna use the word frisbee.
Yeah, but it's essentially.
It's a frisbee and it's just easier for me to say that, but you gotta get your frisbee between the trees and through to get it over to the goal where you're trying to get in. So they've had a few tournaments here and they seem to be doing well and they want to have a more permanent setting. We're still limited where we can't literally dig holes in that ground and place the permanent holes. I don't know what they're called. Baskets.
Basket.
But,
So Manny has come up with concrete.
What, okay, let me throw a little bit on that. What they have is we have donated to us by Milne and Prosser 55-gallon plastic drums. They donated it to us. And then we picked them up and brought them back and we're gonna cut them in half and fill them with concrete. A week from Saturday, April 12th, they've set up with the state association and all the local players for a major effort to get, the course laid out and stuff in place. And if you want to help on that on April 12th, you're there by you know, like 8:30, 9 o'clock, you can meet with them. The state association is really excited about this course. They're very enthused. I can't comprehend the playing of it, to go down and throw a frisbee and make a curve around a tree and go into a goal post. I can slice a golf ball, but I don't know if I can slice a frisbee throw.
Yeah,
It's a very technical course, and one that's set up in, when we set it up in Benton City, it becomes very technical, and it's different from the other courses here in the Tri-Cities, because the other courses are more of how hard can I chuck it and how far can I get it?
Mhm.
Where this, it's not as far, but you have to be able to basically thread it through a line of trees.
right, right. So, and I think that's really getting us steam here. I think the fact that we have a course different than everybody else's is challenging. You know, I really look forward to seeing the turnout that we're gonna get for those tournaments as they come. It'd be nice to, again, be able to provide some better parking in the area. Maybe make it more of an event with food trucks, things of that nature, but right now, there's not a lot of space, so. City does have an easement kind of to the south going down to the river, and I thought about at least grading and graveling that area to allow them to use that space for additional parking.
Yeah.
I think it would be good.
Another thing with that, and then also the park, the boat launch park,
Mhm.
so the poison hemlock is a huge concern.
Mhm.
Is that part of the parks, or is that more of the city to handle, like, try to control that?
That's something we have to discuss with Fish and Wildlife, what we can and can't do. So
Okay.
they've given us permission for the area between the parking lot and the street to turn that into grass.
Mhm.
They have given us that permission. We can irrigate it, we can turn it into grass. We're working on pulling some stumps out now and doing that. The rest of the area kind of to the south of the parking lot.
Yeah.
They do not want us to touch that area. That's natural habitat.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave it as natural habitat. It's their land. So we're kind of at their mercy there. Possibly some of the areas, you know, between the parking lot and the riverside. Possibly we can discuss with Fish and Wildlife. Maybe they could give us some permission to do something with the poison hemlock, just because it is counterintuitive for.
The hemlock was sprayed and, this last year did a moderately good job of controlling it. Our other option is because that is a noxious weed. This year, we will be going out to the, Benton County. They have a noxious weed board and hopefully bringing them in, you know, to control that.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time down there working on that problem.
Yeah.
And so is the staff.
Well, I noticed it when at the 14th Street, walking that, since we cleaned up a lot of that area. Now I see the hemlock starting to come up where we kind of cleaned it all up, so that was just something.
We've got an exceptionally good crop of weeds coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a mild winter and it was coming in a nice wet spring, so a lot of weeds are coming in. Okay, any other questions, comments? Feedback?
That was the facility that you guys want to put in on and on. You said I had to find it.
Yes, so we were looking at some land actually just south of this park here. It's not pictured, it's kind of this piece of property here. And it was, I think it was about 8 acres of land here. And we were looking at soccer fields and softball fields at the time. Again, we didn't get that funding. We're still looking at options there. And it would depend on the land that was available. But I think the big push would probably be soccer and softball. We'd like to bring in some tournaments. You know, it'd be nice to have foot traffic,
Yeah.
space available where we can have some tournaments.
Where is this at?
Down by, the take Dinah. And you head down
Okay.
towards the railroad bridge.
Yeah.
This is like the garbage
Yeah,
transfer station.
yeah,
right here.
okay.
And this is the city's treatment plant and all of
Okay.
that. So we own this triangle piece and we're turning it into parkland, although it's not really gonna be developed, it'll be just more like a riverside access recreational area.
And then we were looking at that corner piece on the left side. You'll see the dotted lines go through that little box halfway. Down about 8 acres, you said?
Yes, right down in here.
Yeah.
Yes, this piece, it kind of goes this way and then squares off in a rectangles down to Carroll Avenue.
Okay.
So it's a pretty large piece, although that didn't work out. We didn't get the funding, and the folks that do own that land, at this point, they're looking at developing it, putting homes in.
And then the railroad bridge, that got approved for a bike path, for a path.
So we have the
No.
funding for the bike path part here. And we do have the funding to purchase and refurbish the bridge. However, we're exploring those options right now, whether as a city we want to move forward with that or not.
Okay,
So, but we do have those fundings in place.
The big concern with the railroad bridge is, twofold, one's liability. People jumping off.
yes, yeah.
The other is completion of the east side into some sort of.
Connecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be something I would like to see. A bike path, or I know we have one, but maybe something. So we live, off of Babs, and it's hard to even, from our house with little kids, go to the bike path without driving and parking. Maybe finding a path that goes through, Babs or 9th Street to, connect, or a little bit safer
Where are we at on Babs?
at the end.
So down
East,
First Street?
yeah,
So years ago, I had a conversation with Alan Rainey with Think Engineering. And we had discussed trying to figure out a way to come in around from the riverfront park and go up, back up and tie into this park as a bike trail. One of our major problems is land ownership
mhm,
and getting that to happen. Yeah, I don't know the answer to figure that one out.
I can say that we do have funding for another project, for street crossing flashing beacons. And we'll be putting in 5 of those throughout the town. So one will be at the boat launch park.
okay,
There'll be a flashing beacon there for street crossing. 88 ramps on both sides, crosswalks, paved crosswalks, and all of that push button beacons. Doing one there, one at Chris Avenue here, and at the Conoco.
Yep.
One as we're going up at the middle school. I think at Hazel. One by the park, Archie Gordon Park, and then one up by the high school on Kylie Road. So there will be some more, better notification for street crossing at all of those areas here, probably by the end of this year.
oh, okay,
So that will help as well. And pull up, push the button, it'll flash and people are supposed to stop. When you push the button, when it starts flashing, so. We are looking at those. As well. Hope to have those in soon.
So ideally, if one could, where you're at, functionally to get it to happen. The Tapfield Greenway runs all the way along the river there.
mhm,
We would love to see a pathway run all the way down. It's just figuring out how to make it happen.
yeah. Well, it's just even Babs, like Babs Street in general. I know we have a bike path,
But you have a lot of traffic.
but we have a lot of traffic, and maybe having some sort of separation between the two, because I mean, I run that and ride my bike and cars. Swerve, and I'm like, hey, okay. But that's something we enjoy as a family, and riding our bike, being able to ride our bikes to a park here. I think that would be another important piece.
No, I think that's a good thing to know. It's just bike paths and getting really through Babs. That's the Babs / Horn, 9th, kind of all the same street, but our state route 225 through town, getting across that is the biggest challenge. Safely or riding along it, so that's something definitely to look at.
Well, me and Alan talked about the eventuality that we need to have in the make it safe is to move the path off of the side of the road. Because right now it runs parallel. And the problem is it's not a safe area.
No, I agree. Basically, it's a painted white line that keeps the cars from the bikes, so it'd be nice to have a better separation there. Definitely. Any other questions, comments?
Is there anything that was gonna be done with the parking lot next to the soon to be pickleball courts at the Archie board? It seemed rather large for the facility there, like there might be for example, I was wondering where the closest basketball court was or a pavilion there, or would it just be redone to be a better parking lot, even if it's.
But there were no plans for the parking lot other than just striping and replacing stops at the pickleball / tennis court section. The other sections in decent conditions, kind of a large roundabout area there. But we have no plans to do anything else there at this time. We do have the basketball courts at Legion Park. You know, that we use. One of my thoughts and hopes is that when we convert that tennis ball court, the tennis court into pickleball, we'll be able to get 6 courts out of there. So it'd be nice to have some tournaments, maybe during Benton City days, things like that. So those are some goals there. Hopefully that parking then would be used a little bit more. Right now, it's just sitting because, you know, but it's inoperational. It needs to be repaired. And I mentioned before you got here, we do have plans. We are converting those courts to pickleball courts by end of June. So yes.
So we need to figure out a way to name those parks as we discussed.
Yeah, that's kind of the next thing, and I guess the priority that I kind of envisioned here is naming our parks. As I mentioned, a lot of our parks don't have names other than we call them the development that came in. So we have Blacktop Park, which we just call it internally, and that's the one on the north end of town where we anticipate the splash pad going, because that's Blacktop Estates. Put that in, so we call it Blacktop Park. We've got Watauga Park over here, Mountain View Park. And we really like to look at a better way to name them, and we hope as a park board, the recommendation that we bring to council, say, yes, we would like to rename this park to whatever, theme park. But whatever the case may be. So I don't know if you know, we did rename City Park this last year to Lloyd Carnahan Park. I think it was last year or the year before. 2 years ago. He was a former mayor. And we discussed before you got to Kelsey, we have the skate park, which is officially Archie Borden Park. And it's like, who is Archie Borden? And we looked it up. He was our first mayor. So we have a couple named after folks, but we'd really like to consider naming of our parks more pertinent to the city, not just naming them after the development that's there. With that, you know, it's our goal. We've got a grant application or a grant right now for some wayfinding signage that will point people to our attractions in town that we're working on. So it'd be nice to have the parks named. So as we do that signage, we're pointing to the parks that we have names of. So, you know, recommendations that have been brought up are former mayors, founders of the city, maybe first police officer, police chief. We did have a police at one time, first fire chief, things like that, or the things that have been brought up in the past. The philanthropist of the city, if we have any. So those are some things that I guess come to mind when we think about naming the park, but definitely be open to recommendations. So, yeah, we contract with the county sheriff. So they're here regularly and we pay for their services. So. We do have police, just not our own police station here. Right? That would be kind of scary.
The city contracts at a nominal fee that's well below having our own police force. We're here, having one deputy in the area, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, the area is pretty big, goes clear out to Crosser almost. So it may take a few minutes getting there. I've had a hit or miss. I've had 20 minutes, and then also had them in like 2 minutes, show them maps, so. Just depends on where they're at.
We do also have WashDOT that comes through here, Washington State Department of Transportation, their police and also kind of help hit the main road through town. So figure that as a state road.
State Journal.
Yeah.
As far as like the park names, I like the idea of like history. Whether it be, I don't know. Like the history of Kylie, Coyote and Benton, mayors and stuff like nice, but then also just pulling from. Other than people's names, like, you know, events that have happened or.
Well, would it be, best for us to provide some recommendations? Maybe provide a list, first mayor, although we already have the first mayor, maybe first female mayor, first, fire chief, maybe provide some recommendations for you guys. Do some research and then have you guys look at those and see what you think. And as we do that, we can also provide this person did this and this for the city. Kind of, because I understand it's like, how do we know who to pick? You know, you can look up the list of mayors and point to a guy and we'll name a park after him, but don't have a lot of history there. So maybe something we can put together as some recommendations for you guys and then see what you think. Are you open to that?
Yeah.
So, I would think something that's specific to that area, and are pretty close together, I think would also make sense, as opposed to, like you said, sort of choosing a figure at random. I mean, so I'm assuming the current development-based names are, purely temporary or provisional, because you wanted to provide something representational on the city's history as opposed to a private development, even though, like, I can see the advantage of that because it's relevant to that area. But I just want to make sure that those are off the table there.
Yeah, those were only named those parks, and again, it's not even official. None of them have signage calling those parks those things. It's just, we have to have something to call it here in City Hall as we conduct business. We have to call it something, so we've always just called it based on the development in the area. But no, I don't think there's any intention to keep those parks, those names.
What about also like asking like leadership at the high school or something like that, to see if they could come up with a park name? That would be,
That's a
the
good
kids
idea.
here, like, they obviously have names for the parks, maybe. Leadership class, someone,
Mhm.
I think that would be fun for them to be able to join in on that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. See them get involved.
Yeah, and they take pride in, naming the park and.
It's something we'll talk to the high school about and see how they want to go about that. Figure that out. Any other thoughts, ideas? Okay.
I'm Kelsey.
Nice to meet you. I guess just with, what we're doing as far as developing parks, I feel like we need to come up with ideas that actually get people involved with doing things. I feel times are changing and what kids do, what people do. So I know just going from like a place or something like that. Kids are on TikTok and all that other stuff, like, they don't think about that type of stuff, as much anymore, so. I like the idea, like the pickleball courts, and I just found out about disc golf. That's you guys are talking about actual golf. I guess that is my thing, actually putting something that is in the youth. So, not just throwing something up just to throw it up.
You're welcome to come and help on the 12th, though. Maybe some, if there was some discs that you can practice with.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your feedback. The one thing I would say is that we're unique in Benton City in the fact that we have a river kind of wrapping our town. And that's good and bad. It depends on what we're doing. For recreation, though, it is a good thing. Because we do have all this riverfront access opportunities that will really bring people in. And I think that we could capitalize on that a lot more than we do as a city, you know? You've got Columbia River, just, you know, in Tri-Cities, and you see so many riverfront activities. Yes, we're a smaller river, but still, there's a lot of opportunities there. And I think it would be good to take advantage of that. We've got 3 parks, all in different levels of development, but not very developed, honestly. But 3 parks that border that river that if we could get access down there and really promote rafting from the park to another, you know,
One of our most busiest parks based on use is actually our, what we call our boat racing park. Because in the summer months, for the last year or so, you can't even buy a parking space in there on a weekend. And, you know, it's just indicative of how much people are looking to do stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
what he's showing here with the railroad bridge, the takeout there would dramatically increase the rafting on the river, big time. And we're already,
and doing events around the river, I think we don't do a lot as a city, as events around the river. It's more within city here, but those would be some great opportunities, I think, once we get some infrastructure in these parks a little better developed.
What do you mean events around the river? Like,
You know, so something that comes to mind, I know that they did this in Yakima a few years where they would do a duck race, people with
Okay.
ducks, and they do a
Yeah.
duck race. You could do it from this park down to the next one, you know, that would be something. Something around kayaking, canoeing, paddle boating, you know, there's all sorts of options there, things that we could take advantage of. Again, we need a little bit better infrastructure. We really only have one good park with river access right now, but as we develop the second one, that gets us a good run from the railroad bridge down to the, you know, the car bridge essentially, of, you know, river access where we can do events. So just things like that, for the future. Obviously, we're not there quite yet, but I'm hoping that it'd be something we could look at, you know, soon. And like you mentioned, doing things that are relevant to the generation that's coming and what they're interested in, not just tennis, because, you know, tennis is not as popular as it used to be. So those are things we need to consider.
What's the goal of Benton City? As more people are coming in, are we trying to have it, you know, are you guys trying to have it like grow? Or are you trying to keep it more smaller and kind of for you guys to
Go for it. I think it depends on who you ask, but I'll let Dave talk about it a little bit.
So Benton City obviously is a unique space, but we are a bedroom community of the Tri-Cities. We do need to grow. We can't stay stagnant. But we have put measures in place to make sure that growth is appropriate. Where we're lacking today is obviously road infrastructure. We've tried to address that. We're looking at things like a roundabout at 7th Street, to slow traffic, allow some to access paths. We're also talking to the county about different ideas about another bridge somewhere in either the Rupert area or to the west of town. They keep telling us there's not availability of funding for that. Correct. But we're still trying to have those conversations. But when we're talking about the Parks Board, what our goal is to have a community where people want to live. Where people want to take their children and go on the bike path. Or walk down to the city park. Where they feel comfortable doing that, not worried about getting hit by a car. We've talked about rerouting 7th Street as a primary road. So that we can take a lot of the traffic out of the whole town. So that we can develop the downtown better for businesses and community events. The goal is to build a community where people feel comfortable and have a good time.
Growth is inevitable. It's part of this area. It's happening whether we like it or not. But like Dave said, we want to grow in the right way.
Cassie, I'm gonna assume that with the parks board, you know, the importance of trails and bike paths. Are also going to play in that discussions. The
Trails and
discussions
bike
going-
paths.
Right, going
Yeah.
forward.
I was gonna mention that, I would suspect that trails and bike paths are part of our mandate. Because they're recreational.
Mhm.
And they are things that we are considering. Like I said, we've got funding right now for a paved pathway to that railroad bridge. And, kind of spoiler, we have council meeting tomorrow night, and I'll be discussing this, the railroad bridge, but we've got a lot of support and a lot of, momentum for trail system on that other side.
Yeah.
We've been working with Friends of Badger Mountain, Red Mountain ADA, Biker Tri-Cities. A lot of different organizations on developing a trail system and connecting that bridge to the trail on the other side. And I think we're closer than we thought we were, earlier this year.
I know it's been, since I moved here, it's been kind of a push to connect Benton City to the trails,
Yes,
over on the other side.
Mhm.
yes.
You know, there's probably opportunity for us to even get involved in some of the groups that are pushing on this too. You know, if you want to become involved. We have permission on the irrigation district has agreed to allow us to use their right of way to improve it all the way up to Highlands Road. So they're along just west of River Road, their right of way, they've said that we could improve that, incorporate that into a trail. Or a bike path all the way up to Highlands.
I'd just like to see the bike path connect, the one that we have, somehow connect. For myself, and my family, but then also I've put on a few runs. 5K runs here. And it's really hard to find a good
Like a
path,
loop.
a good loop or anything where I'm like 100% confident, like, this is going to be safe, whereas instead of how many volunteers can I get to post them here, 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 and here to make sure, no one gets hit.
Yeah.
So. You're looking to complete the loop that they're there, so they don't have to go on the sidewalk system?
We'll leave the sidewalk system, so, I mean, I can talk about this later, but the paths that I have, there's like gaps between, there's no sidewalk and then there's a sidewalk. So then they're either running on the side of the road. But, yeah, just trying,
Well, so again, and I don't know where the drawings are, but me and Alan Rainey talked years ago about, the loop in the park on 14. Seeing if we could get an easement down the backside of that property there. And when they were gonna put that park in the middle of Mountain View Meadows, I kept pushing to have it pushed to the other end. So that we could run that path straight through the park. And come around the backside of Kendall. Shoot up Kendall Road alongside of it with another bike path. Run that up through the backside of Thunder. There's a kind of a wetland back there. And then bring that around. Through Grand Orchard or Old Grand Orchard. Up to. Ralph Creek. And then run that down all the way and tie it into the bike path that you're talking about, going all the way down that. And bring it back down into town. That was part of the talks we had. That would have taken almost all of that path off of the main roadway. It's never been parallel. But it was something that would take time and purchasing and easement access for different properties.
Essentially, we kind of back around this way, because
So you get it, where you at? Yeah, so you come around that way. Yeah.
Coming up here, if this were to be where the park was, all
Yeah.
it's here, but.
Yeah.
Along this way, maybe along Kindle.
Yeah.
Then
Then if you follow Kendall up the hill there,
The ORU.
from that house here.
then
And I think there's right in here.
Yep.
Kind of a,
cross over and then follow that back up through there.
yeah. In here somewhere.
Yeah, keep going north a little bit, to Williams. And then we talked about cutting back along there. And then crossing the road again, then heading north up that, right alongside Highland.
Mhm.
And then once you got to there,
Trail Creek.
yeah, bring it straight down the hill. Come to see if you can get the easement through Thornton's,
All the way down over to
the irrigation ditch.
way over here. Kind of
It's back,
Stop.
there, that's
That's
right.
right here.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we'd run it down to the Oak Lane tie-in. That would be a good walk path, ride path,
Yeah.
run path. And it's outside of developable spaces pretty much. Nobody's gonna build on the side of Kendall. Nobody's gonna build in that wetland area.
So but definitely some things to look at. I can tell you, so Taptail Greenway does want to use the Coyote irrigation. Canal,
Well, all the way to
right away,
highways.
all the way up to Horn Rapids Park.
Yeah,
That does give us an option, like, to work on. I like your idea. We have a request from Thornton to come out of the GMU, or the Growth Management.
Olson Brothers.
And, well, right, she wants to come out. There's that
Oh,
petition,
yes.
and maybe part of that conversation we need to have is if we agree to do that, you know, will you give us access for a path, for a route for a path? I like the idea.
I thought it, when I talked with Alan and we went through our process, we thought that was one of the best ways to extend that path. It would probably triple the size.
Oh, it would be very helpful. We're gonna have a sidewalk on the, west side of Highlands, that are going north from the baseball field for quite a ways. So we will be having a sidewalk going there.
Yeah, this whole area from here to here will have sidewalk.
So what about the sidewalk in town? That goes basically
By
from,
Horn.
no, just right, even just right here, so it ends right at, the
That
coffee
would
shop.
be nice to get done right now.
So it's a cost thing, right?
Yeah.
So that little section we did up north of town,
Uh-huh.
on 9th here, that cost us about $280,000. That was with granting and repaving and stuff,
Mhm.
and,
We're grateful. You know, we're working on things, and that is a concern. I know it's a concern with all the council members. You're not alone in the concern.
The
Right,
sidewalk through.
right. You're not alone in the
Okay.
concern. And I know, trying to find some ideas there, you know. And yes, there is concern.
We have another application in with Washtenaw to install sidewalk from the elementary school up to the high school,
Yeah,
but it'd be on the other side of the street. So. it'd
on
be
the east side,
On your west side of the
west
street.
side. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes,
So that will help, you know, it's kind of pieces that we're doing as we can. as
Yeah.
We can get funding, so, yeah, there's definitely a goal to connect our sidewalks. We've got a lot of pieces because it's a requirement. If somebody comes in and puts in a development, they've got to put in curb gutter and sidewalk. So those areas have it, but the older areas don't, and there's no motivation to have the homeowners do it. So we have to come up with costs, and at that point, we have to prioritize where do we want the sidewalks? If we have so much money, what's our priority?
right,
So.
I just everything connects, right? We want people to use our parks, we want people to enjoy it, we're a bedroom community, we're small, Penn City's small. You should be able to walk, I wanna walk to the coffee shop, but I'm not going to because
Our road is
Our-
too busy and too
The
dangerous.
the road, there's no sidewalks, you know, I don't wanna take my young kids, so it's connecting all those pieces to get people to want to come out and
Yes,
walk to the parks instead of, well, if I'm gonna have to get in my car to drive, then I might as well go to Howard Amen and, run and do my, errands and go for a bike ride down there where,
So my statement to our previous administration was, Benton City needs to look finished. Needs to look finished from the bridge to the store. Because people aren't gonna come to a city that has a sidewalk here, no sidewalk there, a cow here, no cows there, right? They want to come in and they want to see a finished product. And that's how the main corridor needs to look.
a curb appeal.
yeah,
Yes.
Cause I mean, that is when you're looking at buying a piece of property, you don't. If your neighbors, if your potential neighbors don't look the best, it's like, well,
yes.
do I want that? And I think Benton City has a lot to offer, it's just,
They're gonna have to
Connecting
find
it all.
there.
And we have a lot of non-conforming zones, you know what I mean? Like the houses are running along the main street.
Yeah.
They're in commercial zones still, people still living in them,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
same with the cow here and a cow there. You've got some of them that have conformed now into the zone and some of them aren't because they don't have to because they're still allowable to have those.
But to add to the parks statement, as well as the trails and that. We also need to, as the parks board, and I ask you guys to do this, as well as myself, I do it constantly. Go around to the parks. Say, how can this be better? What can we do to improve this as a city so people use this more? And also look for new potential park areas. What do we need? What should we have? Now, granted, funding is always the problem, right?
Yeah.
But we want to have a comprehensive, for lack of a better term, plan. This is how we're gonna push our parks. This is where we wanna be. We wanna be able to have people be able to walk there within 12 blocks. Well, if we got an area without a park in 12 blocks, that's a problem. So how do we fix it?
Mhm.
And where's our potential park gonna go?
and I think we all, I'm new here. I started in January. I've been working with Benton City for a couple of years in a different avenue, but it's our goal and our vision to improve this town. There's a lot of things that's been brought up, but make it look finished. Make it, make you feel safer as you're walking and biking and those things. Open up events that will bring the community in, bring in attractions that people want to do, not just have stuff here to have it, but those are all our goals. Again, through Public Works, our goal this year is just to get stuff back up to working. We've got a lot of things that aren't. We've got parking lots that have no painting on them, or worn out. We've got drinking fountains that don't work. We've got a tennis court that's inoperable. So it's our goal right this year, just to get things back up to work. And from that point, we continue to move forward and progress. Well, how can we improve? What can we do? Parks, bathrooms, sports facilities. What can we do to improve to make this a place that people want to be at? The trail system that connects, where you can have a 5K run that brings you back around to where you started. Those are all great feedback you guys have brought. It aligns, I think, with what our goals are as a city. And I think we just continue to move forward, so. Yes, on that, we've talked quite a bit. Our agenda is pretty basic, but any other questions or comments?
You mentioned Capstone Greenway wants to do the irrigation ditch to connect to Horn Rapids eventually.
Yes.
Is that something that would be paved, or will they create a new section? Because I wasn't sure exactly where it ended.
Let me bring up a different page here that shows the parcels. That will kind of give you a better idea. So unpaved, primarily. So what we've got is kind of the irrigation district have their canals. And they, piped them and covered them all, but they still own that land and it's kind of, follows the canal. And we've done a lot of paving over that already.
Yeah.
So the areas, from the trail over at our 14th Street Park, coming in through Chris Avenue and then over back behind the Bataka Estate, that's all irrigation canal that we're got our path over.
We just want to zoom out on that, I'll show them on that.
So it goes north. And we'll kind of,
I've used a good amount of it, 'cause I know at some point it becomes paved.
So the idea was that we would, where you at here? So you follow this line here, coming up through there, and it's gonna go all the way out. He's got talked to Highland, right?
Highlands extension.
So we've got that would probably be all paved.
Yeah.
More than likely, the county would be involved in that because that's in their jurisdiction. Unless we can get some sort of joint grant. Scroll down one quick. Right about there. So that comes back over this way. Through up to here. And the goal for them is to somehow find a way to get down along the river there. And once they're there, they're inside the park. Once they're inside the park, you're gonna have an all dirt trail. Much like you're climbing Badger Mountain. Or Candy Mountain. And that would be the goal of the Greenway.
Yeah.
Okay. And they wanna take that all the way down to Mount Columbia. How they do that? I don't know. That's a long distance and getting easement accesses next to people is tough. And once you get into West Richland, you're gonna have houses that you're kind of with.
they're gonna have challenges even in this part because right in here, you're in the middle of neighborhoods. Folks don't want that. I know I've spoken to Kiona and I've spoken to Taptil, but again, it's just part of their goal and their vision. But it would tie into our Benton City Trail network. We've also got on the other side, Prince Badger Mountain that are wanting to come over Red Mountain here and kind of tie in over in this area. And it's somehow tie into that Taptil Greenway as well. So they talked about that. Actually, I've gone to the Friends of Badger celebration and they shared a slide with me showing their vision for trail network.
Made it a Red Mountain, correct?
Yes.
Publicly access.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you go to the old road, Kennedy, headed in down, you come to the four-way stop. You turn right, go all the way until you get to just about the freeway. There's a gravel road that takes up the hill. You go up there, there's a gravel parking area for cars. And once you get off there, you got two trail lines. That come around, they connect into one and climb the mountain. It's actually a pretty good walk. So.
Kind of visions of Taptil and Friends of Badger. Your Taptil is the red. So from the Columbia, they're wanting this path that kind of goes up. Again, this is from Rabbit Park and it comes down and ties into Benton City. Friends of Badgers wanting, working a trail that would kind of, again, come across. You got Badger across Candy. Then across Red Mountain, tying in here. And then this is actually an additional goal of all three parties to bring that trail down the Moss Road and tie to the railroad bridge. over here.
The meeting we had, the county was concerned about the Moss Road and safety there. One of the other items kicked around in the meeting we had would be a call was coming across this side of Red Mountain through some of the roads that tie the vineyards in, and coming more in a direct access directly to the railroad bridge.
And so that would make more sense as far as safety, getting them off the main roads and next to the vineyard.
Yeah, well, I think the goal here is to follow the railroad berm. Not on the road, but you'll see the railroad berm is kind of off to the side, it's quite a bit higher. But to follow that was their thought and intent here, so they're not right on Demoss Road, but they're following the old railroad berm. And then getting across Demoss over to over to the railroad bridge is kind of the biggest piece of like, how would you do that? But we've even got some ideas there on what we would do. This is a long-term goal and vision for, both these entities, but this is something they shared at their celebration here last month. So,
You didn't invite me.
right. Couldn't invite you. I was not part of the invitation group. Right?
You didn't have a plus one.
You're plus one.
Yeah, I could. You were my wife. Sorry, you lost something out. But anyway, that's kind of your goal. So. It'd be neat to see all that tie in together at some point, right? I think we've got enough people involved and interested, but I think we'll all fight it together. Probably next 10, 20 years. That's how we work on television. If money is available, it takes time. Like that. I guess with that, any other questions or comments?
You good to send an email that?
Let me make sure I can.
Yeah.
I'll ask, make sure it's available. I think so, because she shared it at her their large celebration they have, so I think I can share it, but I'll just verify that for you. Yeah, appreciate your guys' support, your guys' input, and we'll kind of put together some thoughts on park naming. And as we move forward, if you guys have ideas on capital improvements, things that you see like, hey, we really need to improve this park this way, or this is what we need to do, we'll work on those things. For the splash pad, we are anticipating hearing back in May or June to get that funding. So as that progresses, if we do, we'll work on sharing those designs that we originally put together and finalizing those designs for what we can do there. We can't do a lot. Unfortunately, the money is not a whole lot to give us, splash park like the ones in Tri-Cities, but at least get us something here. Is the goal. And yeah, we'll continue to work towards those developments. So you guys have let me give you my card. I know you have my email, got my cell number on your stuff too. And as you find things or have questions or want to provide input,
Do you see any safety concerns?
safety
And
concerns,
then we're going to
you want to help with an event,
chairman of the group, or chairperson of the group.
or if you have ideas about an event, a tournament of some sort, open to all that stuff. Yeah, pickleball, 3-on-3, something on the river, like I said, a power boat race. I don't
Do
know.
a
all sorts of stuff.
triathlon on the river, if we could connect the biking and
Mhm.
running, and instead of swimming, you can do paddle boards or kayaking. To access these rivers.
That'd be cool.
You're really, really, really special.
Awesome. Okay, well, I guess with that, we can adjourn. Next meeting will be, I mentioned quarterly, so we're in April now. We're still in March, so we barely made first quarter. So our next meeting would probably be, early June. That should hit us right in the middle of that second quarter. So I'll, email you guys to set, a date that works, and then we'll set it. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn? Again, thank you guys for your time. and
Thank
your
you.
input. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.